So I think it's actually lost its function. I think it's become a show. Yeah. I think televising Parliament was a huge mistake. I don't think people should see their MPs or people in government as celebrities, because they're not. Most of them are, in my view, pretty average people. They're perfectly nice people, but I don't think they're exceptional. So I think Parliament's lost a lot of the basis, which I think structured itself so well and aligned the interests of not only parliamentarians, but also the front bench with the interests of the British people. And I argue now that most of the people in Parliament are serving themselves. They're not serving the British people.
I think...
And they're making a living, a professional living, and whatever it is, 92,000 a year, which is, I give to charity each month. I'm fortunate enough I don't need that. I'm not in it for the money. But I think a lot of people arguably do need the money, and therefore they become a hostage to the party, to the central planners, to the sort of the whips, and they're not able to pursue a path of individualism and challenge, which ultimately is what an MP should be doing.
In a blistering critique that's gaining traction online, former MEP Rupert Lowe has unleashed a scathing attack on the state of British politics. Speaking with blunt honesty, Lowe dismissed many of today's MPs as pretty average people. But this wasn't just an insult, it was part of a deeper charge. His core argument is that Parliament has stopped serving the people and started serving itself. In Lowe's view, too many MPs are chasing perks, media exposure, and personal status rather than addressing the country's most pressing challenges. His words strike a chord with growing public frustration, a belief that Westminster has become detached from real life. He pointed to issues that remain unresolved: a struggling economy, border insecurity, an NHS in crisis, and a housing shortage. When he described MPs as pretty average, it wasn't just about intelligence, it was about their character, commitment, and ability to lead. What resonated most, however, was his claim that Parliament has turned into a self-serving institution. For voters, already weary of lobbying scandals, expense abuses, COVID mismanagement, and broken promises, the message felt familiar. Lowe argued that too many politicians no longer see themselves as public servants, but as insiders clinging to privilege, protecting their positions, and ignoring the struggles ordinary people face every day. Whether dismissed as populist rhetoric or not, Lowe's words cut deep. He's voiced a sentiment that many believe, but few in power are willing to confront: that Parliament, once a symbol of democracy, is now seen as crumbling under the weight of self-interest. Agree with him or not, Rupert Lowe has thrown a political grenade into the heart of the establishment. And judging by the reaction, it's hit its target.
I was in the chamber, sat next to Sarah on Wednesday this week when she asked the PM. By the way, his answer was awful, dreadful. He never even answered the question. He was banging on about spending and stuff like that because the man hasn't got a clue. But I sat there with Sarah. When she asked that question, there were sighs, there were groans, there were moans, there were complaints from the opposite benches and, unfortunately, those that sit in front of me, the Lib Dems, the Greens, and a few of the Jezza's lot behind me, the Gaza Independents, they were all groaning. And you know what? They are not in touch, Andy. Any poll that you do in this country would say overwhelmingly that face covering should be banned.
I'm sure that it does, but I mean, I think the reason they were sighing is because it's this bizarre little culture war question when there are actual real issues in this country that Sarah was objectively elected to face. That by-election win, that wasn't based on she wants to ban burqas. That was based on there are real issues in this country and people are reaching out to alternative parties. She should have been representing. Do you think the people of Runcorn deeply care about a burqa ban more than their bills?
So why were the 5 independent Gaza MPs elected then?
I think
was that based on local issues?
I think so, yeah.
Was it, Charlie?
No. Well, when you lose people like Jonathan Ashworth, who, again, totally opposes political views, but someone that seemed to be a good local Labour MP, ousted because of pro-Gaza.
Jonathan Ashworth, by the way, is not here to defend himself. He was elected many times in that area because of a certain demographic of voters. But it was the same voters that ultimately led to his downfall.
Exactly. And look, the people in Runcorn, to defend Sarah, I think will want to have a conversation about who's coming into this country, how are people integrating, whether it's in her constituency or yours or anywhere across the country, where you're seeing people that do come into the country from foreign countries that seem to get hotel accommodation paid for. They're coming in illegally. There are people that then are granted asylum that don't integrate, and that has
and of course, Andy, Charlie's right here, because one of the big concerns in Sarah's constituency, where I went to help a campaign, was illegal migrants in hotels.
Yeah, but that's a completely separate discussion to banning.
Well, it's not. It's not. It's all part of the wider discussion of people coming from different cultures, not respecting our laws, our way of life, our history, our heritage, and our culture.
I don't think the two. I think talking about illegal migration and legal migration is a very different conversation.
I'm not talking about legal migration. I'm talking about legal.
Well, I mean, your party often talks about net zero migration, legal and illegal. So I think, respectfully, Reform UK do care about legal migration, Lee.
Charlie.
Well, it's all about integration. It is all part of the same package, and it's a big question which needs to be answered about the burqa. Is if you're wearing a burqa in British society in our streets of Britain today, is that integration? Is that Western adhering to Western values? I don't think it is, and that's the problem. Whether you're a legal migrant or an illegal migrant, if you're coming into the UK and you can't speak English, that's a problem.
Okay,
that creates
guys,
a barrier.
let's call that to a close. Slowly but surely, we seem to be giving our country away.
In another provocative intervention, Reform UK MP Lee Anderson has reignited the debate over national identity and cultural integration. Anderson claimed that any poll in this country would overwhelmingly show that face coverings should be banned. Known for his no-nonsense populist style, he accused fellow politicians of being hopelessly out of touch with the views of ordinary Britons. For Anderson, the burqa is not just religious attire. He frames it as a barrier to social unity, a refusal to embrace British culture. His argument, controversial as it is, echoes a wider populist frustration that politicians prefer political correctness to public opinion. Supporters hailed his comments as courageous a defense of British values, openness in public life, and the need for firm cultural boundaries. They point to examples like France and Denmark, arguing Britain should follow suit. Critics, however, responded with sharp condemnation. Human rights groups and Muslim community leaders denounced his remarks as inflammatory, warning they risk stoking Islamophobia. Many stressed that wearing the burqa is a deeply personal act of faith, not a political statement, and that banning it would only deepen social divides and alienate Muslim women. Once again, Anderson has thrust himself into the center of a highly charged national debate, one that pits questions of identity, integration, and freedom against the realities of a divided political landscape.